Earlier this morning, I received a message from a friend of mine from Kansas, Tim Hulskamp, former member of Congress, and he said that there was going to be today a spiritual battle, if you will, between a satanic group and Christians at the state capitol in Kansas at Topeka. And sure enough, darkness descended today in Topeka when the Satanic Grotto of Kansas held a black mass outside the state capitol. But rest assured, it was incredible to see how God's light was every bit as present and powerful in the state capitol, because Christians from many denominations literally surrounded the capitol as they conducted praise and worship services of their own. And joining me now, Kansas State Representative Susan Humphries. She was there right in the middle of it while these dueling, if you will, religious services were taking place. She happens to be, by the way, Susan does, the first ever recipient of FRC Action's Samuel Adams State Legislator of the Year Award. That was for her work defending faith-based adoption providers in Kansas. Representative Susan Humphries, welcome to Washington Watch. It's so good to have you.
Thank you. So good to be here with you all. We've got good things going on here.
You really do. What an amazing story. It's strange and in many ways a dark story, but it has absolutely, in fact, more than just a silver lining. I want to appreciate you so much and say thank you for your willingness to share with us today. You were right in the middle of it all. So tell our listeners, our viewers, a little background, if you will. How did this black mass at the state capitol ever come about in the first place?
Okay. Around the 1st of March, we got word that the Satanic Grotto was going to hold a black mass on March the 28th. We knew a little bit about this group because when we had our March for Life event on the steps of the state capitol in January, hundreds of pro-life folks were gathered there with probably 80 pro-life legislators standing on the steps. And there was a man that walked around yelling, "Hail Satan." And so we got a little taste of what he might do. And this is the same one who now has planned, who did plan the Black Mass for March the 28th. And so we knew that that was going to happen. They had reserved a spot in the rotunda right there on the first floor. And they have First Amendment rights was the thought. And so they did go ahead and get that. But as it turned out, about 10 days later, the governor and our leaders in the House and the Senate, those two are both believers. They met with the governor and said, how are we going to let this happen? And the governor agreed to move the group outside the Capitol in one spot. They were to be on the east side of the Capitol, and then the Christians were to be on the south side of the Capitol. And that's kind of how it stayed. We thought there was going to be more, that they were actually not going to be allowed on the grounds because of some threats and stolen property, let's call it that. But as it turned out, they were given permission to be outside the Capitol, and that's what happened this morning.
So what was the atmosphere like today?
It was striking. First of all, there were state troopers positioned everywhere around the Capitol. And then also, our Capitol's 5 floors. So state troopers at the entrance, on every floor, at every turn and twist. But when I walked over, we live in an apartment here in Topeka. When we're not in Wichita, we live in Wichita. But when I'm here serving, we have an apartment here. I walked over to the Capitol, and on the east side were a group of Satanists, but it was a small group. I would say maybe 30 is what it looked like to me. They were fenced off, and there were many, many Christians around. Just they were peaceful. They had signs. Might have a Christian flag, American flag, different signs. And then on the south side really is where a group of very traditional Catholics held the service. That was the south side. On the north side of the Capitol is a Catholic church. They ended up having a mass there at noon, and it was packed. But I think the most striking thing was it was Christians of all different varieties. There were the real traditional Catholics, other Catholics. There were women, older women praying off to the side. There were evangelicals. There were bold, I would call it, probably they've come from hard backgrounds, but now they're involved in a solid church. There were people speaking in tongues. There were hundreds, and it was so striking.
Wow.
Just the unity among the Christians, what was going on. And they were singing praise songs all over the Capitol. Inside the Capitol was peaceful until a few things happened.
Well, we've only got a couple more minutes here. Real quickly, Michael Stewart, who is the head of this Satanist organization, said that he was going to get inside the Capitol, even if it meant being arrested. Did he attempt that by chance?
Yes, he did. And he was arrested. There's video out. People can probably see it. He was able to get to the first floor right there. This was, there he is being taken out. But what happened was he was holding up some kind of book, satanic book, and a youth, I don't know how old, tried to grab the book. There were reporters everywhere, all around, and the youth did get the book, and he smacked him twice in the jaw. And then the police descended on Michael, and he was escorted out. So it was a publicity stunt, I suppose, and that's what happened.
Wow. Amazing. Well, listen, thank you so much, Susan, for you and hundreds of other believers who were so brilliantly effective in shining the light in the midst of darkness. About 1 minute left. I know that there's a lot of other things happening in Kansas, but the legislature passed an unusual bill regarding the unborn in Kansas. Tell us real quickly about that.
Okay, really quickly. We passed a bill yesterday that recognizes the unborn as a dependent for tax exemption purposes. And it passed overwhelmingly in our House. We have a supermajority, and it also passed in the Senate. Our governor will probably veto it, but it was such a win for life to recognize the unborn as a dependent for tax purposes, and they'll get an exemption for that.
So even with the veto, it would be overridden? Is that what you're saying?
It should be. Yep, it should be. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Stay tuned.
Representative Humphries, we are so grateful to you, grateful for your willingness to take a stand, your willingness to be a light in the midst of darkness, and your willingness to come on Washington Watch with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for what you all do. It means so much to so many of us.
Well, thank you.